Welcome back, Hacker. Today we are going to be looking at margins and paddings. Margins and paddings are very important. You're going to be using them all the time in your career as a front-end developer, so let's just dive right into it. Now, I have on the screen an example, which we've done before, some review. Last time we looked at semantic tags. Semantic tags will tell you what is exactly going on. Here we have header. We know that this is a header. Rather than using something like div class equals ID, this is just header. It describes that this section up here is the header, and then we have main, which is the main content below. Now, so far, we were able to create this with ease because you are building on your knowledge, and you can do this in your sleep by now, which is amazing. But you'll notice that while we're creating these different sections, that we have some space in between them. We have the top and the bottom. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to manipulate these spacings. The spacings that we are going to be talking about are margins and paddings. So let's jump into the differences between margins and paddings. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this annotate screen here. So here, I'm going to draw a box. So imagine that this box is a section. We have some content in it. Now, we want to change spacing of this content. Well, there's two different types of spacing. The first type of spacing, which is easy to understand, is margin. So margin is the space around this. Let's say we have this box has a pink background, and the space around it, that is called the margins, which we can see right above up here. So we have this heading, and then you see that there's this white space between the heading and the test, which is the main tag. That white space between those two items is called the margin. So that is the margin. That's the space between the space between the pink and the blue. That is the margin. Now, let's say we were going to have some content inside of it, like how we have this heading here. See, it's really hard to see. I don't know if I can zoom in, but it's really hard to see that there's actually a little bit of space between the top of that word heading and the top pink line up here, the top of this. So that is what they call padding. So the padding is the distance between the edge of the container to the content, something like this. So let me type it in, content. So to reiterate, padding is the distance between the edge to the content, while the margin is the space between these different blocks. Now, to demonstrate this, let's just show it. So I have this heading, or this header. Now let's go ahead and let's add some padding to it. So I'm going to put in the property of padding, and I'm going to put in something really big, let's say 30 pixels. And let's see what happens. Boom. All of a sudden, you'll now notice that I have a lot of space around my content here. I have some space here now, here, top, bottom, left, and right. That is the padding. But you'll still notice that I have some space down below between this element and this element. So let's say I wanted to add more space between the two of these. I can use margin. Now let me go ahead and type in some margin. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say margin. We'll say 40 pixels, something drastic so we can see it. Okay, now we have some additional space on the top, bottom, left, and right. What if I only wanted, though, to have space or margin on the bottom? I didn't want to have additional margin on the top, left, or right. One way I can do this is I can say margin top 0 pixels, margin right 0 pixels, margin left 0 pixels, and margin bottom 50 pixels. Let's see what happens here. So I am keeping my same margin on the left, the top, left, right, but then on the bottom I am going to actually make it 50 pixels, so I'm going to push it down here. Now this is a long way to write it. There's actually a method that's a lot faster. It's shortcode. I would highly recommend that you learn both methods. So you're going to want to learn that there's margin, and then there's margin dash top, margin dash left, margin dash right. Okay, so let's see what happens here. If I go back to margin, and I type in 10 pixels, Actually, let's make it more drastic, like 50 pixels, so we can really see it. Now, watch what happens if I put a space and then 0 here. You're going to notice that it now is giving a margin of the top and the bottom of 50, but the left and the right is 0. Okay, now what happens if I add in another space and I put in something like 20 pixels? Okay, so what is going on here? Well, it's not going to actually be able to be seen. So let's go here. 10 pixels. Okay, let's make this actually more drastic. So I have first one is my top. So margin, it allows you to do a shorthand version of margin spacing. So margin left, right, or margin left, top, right, bottom, left. Sorry. So I was going to, let's go ahead and annotate this screen, clear this out. So with margins, you can create shorthand. And the way that shorthand works is you type in the word margin here, and then you're going to provide 4 different elements to specify how you want this margin to be laid out. I have 50, 0, 20, 100. So what that means is I'm actually doing shorthand. And the way the shorthand works is visualize a box. If you have a box, this is the element. Whatever the first number is, that's going to be the top. Whatever the second number is going to be the right. Whatever the third item is going to be the bottom. And the fourth item is going to be the left. So you are going around this box in a clockwise fashion. So clockwise around. So top, right, bottom, left. Meaning here, I have 50 on top. Then I have 0, the padding or a margin of 0. Then I have a margin of 20. Then I have a margin of 100. That's why you see 50 more space up here, no space on the right, 20 on the bottom, and even more space on the left. Now, watch what happens though if I go ahead and I remove this 100 right here. So what's happening now? Well, let's take a look at this. We are still doing some shorthand, but the way this works is it's going to then go, okay, first we're going to go to the top, then we're going to go to the right, then we're going to go to the bottom. But what happens is that we don't have anything for the left, right? So the browser, what it does is if there isn't anything else over here, in this little area over here, since there's nothing else, what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever we have on the right and it is going to fill it in for the left. So that's why we have on the top, we have 50 pixels here, 0 pixels, very small amount over here, 20 pixels down, and 0 on the left, because the browser is doing some work for us and it is trying to fill in the gap right here with this 20. Okay, so that's what's going on. Now let's see what happens if I clear this out and I remove it like so, going even further down. Let's draw this box back out again. So what's going on? We're going to again, it's going to go from the top, right, bottom, left. So here we have 50 on top. So that's our 50. Then we have 0, which is our right. Then it's going to go to 50 again. So see that this is larger, and then it's going to go to 0. So what's happening again is the browser, because there isn't a bottom set, it's going to take whatever we have set for the top and it is going to duplicate it for the bottom. Whatever we have set for the right, it's going to duplicate it to the left because we don't have that set. Now, the very last one is if I remove this 0 here, let's see what happens. Okay. So again, the same thing is actually happening. We're having a box. It has the top, but we don't have anything else, right? So what the browser is doing is it's saying, okay, since there's nothing else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in whatever's on the top for the right. Okay, then I'm also going to fill it in for the bottom because I don't have anything there. And then I'm going to fill it in for the left because I don't have anything there. And that's how the shorthand works. Again, we're going clockwise around the box. We're going from top, right, bottom, left. This is just something that we have to practice and memorize. Top, right, bottom, left. Now, the really cool thing is this actually applies to the same thing. This concept for margin applies to the same thing for padding. So let's go ahead and make this 0 pixels here. So we'll remove all that margin. Then I'm going to do the same thing here to show it. So I have 0 pixels. I'm going to add 20 pixels. Let's see what happens. So I have 0 on top. Let's actually make it a little bit more drastic so we can definitely see it. So 0 on top, and then on the left we have 70. Then we are going to put 100 pixels down below so we can really see it. So then we go, so again, top, right, bottom, and again, because it's setting the left right now, because we actually don't have a left set, we have a right set over here. We have actually the right set here, and the browser, since it's not set over on the left, it's going to fill in the blank. Now again, once I add in something here like 30 pixels, now we have same thing with the box. We have 0 on top, 0 on top, so 0 on top, right hand we have 70, 100 on the bottom, and then 30 on the left. Wonderful. Now you're probably asking, okay, that's pretty awesome, but why do we have a little bit of space right here around these elements? That is a great question. So what happens is that at the browser, it actually sets some default spacing for all of these items. And there's a couple scripts that we can use later on to normalize it, and we'll go into that in a little bit, but I'm going to show you something really quickly. Let's go ahead and remove this. So last time we used this thing called the body tag, right? And I'm going to do margin 0 pixels, padding 0 pixels. And let's see what happens. So it actually removes that now, right? Which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and change that to a star, and we're going to remove all of the elements on everything. So we removed all of the spacing, the margins, and the padding. So we did this star hack to just remove everything, to move all the spacings. So that way now what's happening is that we have this really nice looking line right in between the two of these. So notice how that it just nestles up. So now we're starting to get into being able to actually really create nice design by having all of our elements touch each other and not have any of those white spaces. And so that's that star hack. So I said star, margin 0, and then padding, margin 0. And we'll go into normalizing script later. So let's continue on with this. I'm going to just show a quick more example of the main. So let's add some padding and margin here. So let's say margin 40 pixels, and let's do a padding of 100 pixels. There you go. So now we can add some spacing if we want to, but if we don't want that spacing on the top or the bottom, we can change this to 0. It's going to nestle it right up there. But actually, I don't want any of that at all, so let's just go ahead and remove this padding. So now we have two sections, again, that are nestled right next to each other, and we're starting to be able to make our designs flow without having any sort of gap in between them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to give you your challenge, and there's going to be a longer challenge, but it's very important for us to practice this paddings. And again, let's focus on trying to memorize this shorthand. We're going to have the top, right, bottom, left. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you this challenge. What we're going to do is we're going to create a page with a header, main, and footer. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to use this star hack that I just showed you right here. So you are going to set this star hack for all margins to 0 and all paddings for 0. So again, what that's going to do is, let me delete this real quick, is it's going to eliminate those additional spaces. And we will get into a better way of doing this later on, but this is just a quick down and dirty way to do this. Now, for the header, what you're going to do is you're going to set the background color to one of your choice, set the padding to 20 pixels on the top and the bottom, and set the padding to, 40 pixels on the top and the bottom, and the padding to 20 pixels for the left and right. Then I want you to set the margin bottom to 50 pixels. Inside of the heading, have an H1 tag that says hello. Set the H1 tag to a color of your choice and set the margin left to 75 pixels, margin left only. For the main tag, set a margin of 100 pixels and set a padding of 10 pixels. Set the background color the color of your choice. Inside of the main, have 2 paragraphs with filler text. Set the margins to 0 and the padding top to 25, only the padding top. For the footer, set a margin top of 0, set a margin right of 10 pixels, set a margin left of 100 pixels, set a margin bottom of 50 pixels, set a padding, or set a color choice, background color of your choice. Inside the footer, having an H2 tag with the text coding is easy. Set the padding to 0 pixels. Set the margin top and bottom to 0 pixels. Set the padding left and right to 10 pixels. And again, while you're doing this, you can go ahead and you can do the long way, but I would vary where you do margin dash left, margin dash right. But I would very much encourage you to get used to the shorthand, which for another time is, let's do it again, top, right, bottom, left. That's the order. Clockwise around the square, right? Top, right, bottom, left. You got this. You're going to be able to do this challenge with breeze. I know you can do it. Keep coding. Coding is not that hard. Keep moving forward.